Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty and happy International Scrapbooking Day. I am here as part of the design team over at the Counterfeit Kit Challenge, and we are hosting a bingo challenge for International Scrapbooking Day. I am here with a video on giving you an example of how I put together two of my bingo spots onto this layout, so let's dive in. All right, I pulled out my kits, plural, for the Counterfeit Kit this month, and I did make page kits because it is also a load month, which means layout a day. I have my bingo form here all filled out, and your bingo form will vary from mine, so that is the fun of this challenge. No two bingo sheets will be alike. I did pull out these photos from my story binder, and as I was looking at these photos, I knew exactly which kit from my kits I wanted to use. The one with all the beautiful florals for my beautiful daughter. So I have 3 photos, so that's the first idea I think that I'm going to use on my bingo form. But I have lots of options here because so many of the things that I do are on this bingo sheet. So I will mark off the ones that make the most sense later on when I get to that part. All right, now it's time to come up with a layout for this. And as I was holding the photos kind of fanned out in my hand, I liked that curvature that the photos had. So I pulled out my circle template and I'm trying to replicate that curvature onto this floral sheet of pattern paper so that I can trim it down and create this kind of base for my photos to sit on, this kind of curved shelf for them to sit on. Only the curve is a little tighter than what it should have been because when I had them fanned out in my hand, it was not a circular curve. It was more of an elongated ellipse kind of curve. So you'll see how I fix that a little bit later on. But I got my paper trimmed out and I've decided that the focus photo of this one should be the one of her with the flower right at her nose. I did pop that one up on foam tape. And this is where I realized my curve is just too tight because I've got one photo that's kind of completely sideways and I'm playing with the orientation and layout to see if I can fix that curve. And this is where I realized that the curve needs to be shallower. I think that's the right word. So that those photos are approaching a straight line, but not exactly a straight line. So I am currently, out of this sheet of pattern paper, making myself a giant faux ribbon, and we'll see how that goes as I get to it. So I am trying to match up the pattern so that it's continuous across this ribbon, and I will get that pattern paper adhered down. Now this is something I usually do with like a 1-inch wide strip of paper and not this. I think this ended up being 3 inches wide or something. And that is to kind of fold it up into a ruffle format here. And because the paper is so wide, it's definitely taking some effort to get it to fold up into a nice shape. And here's where I'm drawing onto my background, kind of the curve that I want this to take. And that's when I realized the best way to get paper to behave is to make it slightly damp. Now that also makes it more delicate. So if you're going to do this, be careful because you can more easily rip your paper. And at some point I did get some edges that were fraying and getting more distressed. And I will point that out in just a moment. But if you're careful, you can get this oh, that's where I pointed it out. Okay, you can get a pretty kind of ribbon effect out of pattern paper. Now, I did use a brayer and more water to help flatten this out because it is pretty voluminous. And as I start gluing it down, I realized I'm gluing it straight to that original curve and I need to kind of spread it out a little bit. And I think I end up doing that off camera because I had started trimming and everything here. And I realized I had to kind of shift it a little bit off camera. So once all of that is in place, and again, liquid glue works best for this. Oh, I guess I didn't shift it. Okay. Oh, I remember now. I actually shifted the photos a little bit to make up for that curve. At any rate, liquid glue works best for adhering that kind of chunky texture stuff down. And so I got that adhered in place. I marked some spots where my photos are going to go so that I'm not busy doing this stenciling part underneath the photos that are just going to be covered up. And then I pulled out that stencil from my kit, which is kind of a leaf pattern. and I'm stenciling around where each photo is going to go. And you can see my bottom photo, I kind of angled out a little bit, and that wide ribbon helps cover up that gap that was existing between the floral paper and my background paper. So that's why I had that ribbon there in place. For some reason, I thought I had stretched it out too, but I guess not. At any rate, I have moved on to my title block, and I'm using this pink pattern paper here. And one of my bingo spots on the card is to use a mixed alpha title. And I do that often. And so this technically isn't two separate alphas, but that word strip has its own font and color to it. So I'm counting it as its own alphabet. So that mixed with the rose gold letters from scrapbook.com, I'm going to cross off a 3 photo and a multi-alpha title. So that is the 2 bingo spots that I ended up using, despite the fact that I could have used mixed media, I could have used several other things. So those are the 2 I went with on my bingo card. And I am starting to layer up some embellishments for this project to finish it off here. I am doing my typical visual triangle of embellishments, one in the top right corner, and that one up there also helps balance out all of the weight of the bottom floral and photo elements down there. So that element up there is doing 2 jobs. And with my other clusters, I'm going to put one around my title and then one down in the bottom right corner. And that's also going to be my little journaling spot. These photos didn't need a lot of journaling. They were just photos that, I took because she was so sweet looking playing with these little flowers on our walk at the park. And that's pretty much what the journaling says. So I am making sure I repeat other elements into each cluster. So I've got some floral wood veneer pieces. I definitely have words in each cluster. And that's actually when I realized I did not have a word up in the upper right-hand corner. So I take one of the words from the bottom corner and add that up to the top. And now I've got words in each cluster. And I'm adding in a few extra sprinkles of these very shiny, they're not enamel dots, but enamel-like dots. And that plus my typical doodly outline here, and my layout is finished. And we'll take a couple looks at close-ups here of the items on there after I trim off one more little bit that I missed along the way. So I had fun making this jumbo wide paper ribbon, and so that's a technique that you might want to give a try. I also enjoyed clustering all of these little embellishments around to finish off just a sweet layout about my daughter. I hope you are having a wonderful International Scrapbooking Day, no matter what challenges you have got going on. And I hope you are playing along with at least some of us here at the Counterfeit Kit group, and we'd love to see your work. So be sure to post your photos in the proper album on our Facebook group, and we'll leave you some love. Until next time, have an artful day.